because I studied so much about dating and I had a dating coach and all these things, and I learned so much about energy and men and women, females' energy. Men do communicate in a penetrative way, and that is how they're supposed to communicate, especially with women. And once I learned all of this, I realized how much it tied into sales.
So how do you turn your business into an actual brand? Well, my name is Bijal Patel, and I've had 13 years of corporate experience working at big Fortune 500 companies, and I'm taking all of that juicy firsthand experience and have brought it into my company Launch. Within this podcast, you're going to learn about branding, vision, identity, mindset, and how to scale your business to the next level. So let's go ahead and own your brand. Hey guys, welcome to the Own Your Brand show. I'm so excited. I've got my friend from down under, the Jessica Viera, and she owns an incredible brand. It's called Feminine Sales Academy, and she's absolutely a firehouse. Not even a powerhouse, she's a firehouse because her passion is met by her care about people. And I think she's just the most beautiful person inside and out. So Jessica, welcome to the show.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me, Bijal. I love that. Not a powerhouse, a firehouse. It sounds like
She's
me.
a firehouse. And it's so cute. I love it because you have like the best voice. You know you have the best voice in the world, right?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Are you aware of that? Let's take a pause. Jessica's going to talk 97% of this podcast purely so you can just take in her beautiful sound of her voice. But Jessica, tell the audience, What is it that you do at Feminine Sales Academy?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So what do we do? So Feminine Sales Academy, I started the umbrella of Feminine Sales Academy in October 2022. And that's when I realized that there were so many women in the online coaching and education industry that were so petrified of sales. And I also realized that there were just so many men in sales in the online space, and there wasn't enough of a big enough movement for women in sales. And that's when I realized that there was a really big gap. So essentially, when we rebranded the entire company, we launched Feminine Sales Academy, specifically focusing on women in sales speaking in feminine communication and being in feminine energy and leading in sales in that way. So then we launched the first only sales agency placing setters and closers that were women only for women only businesses in the online education space. And that's kind of where it really started and blew up in last year, February last year. It just skyrocketed.
Wow. So this is so exciting because like a couple years ago, I was working with someone on my team, and I was like, listen, like one day we should just like do a sales arm of this business because like there's not enough women leaders actually teaching sales and leading with that feminine energy, which is like, if you look, outside of coaching and consultant, it's actually women who lead and dominate all sales if they're given the opportunity and if the circumstances fit. So for example, if there's like door-to-door sales, there's not as many women who are going to show up just because of protection. So the fact that you saw that opportunity and jumped into it, it's no surprise to me that you just straight dominated the space. It's incredible. It's such a need.
Yeah.
Were you a salesperson before this? Like, how did you incept this idea?
That's such a good question. So oddly enough, yes. And it's so bizarre. So I was in a past life, feels like one. I actually started at my whole life as a nurse, I guess, and was a nurse for 7 years. And then I kind of felt like that I outgrew nursing. And then I wanted to have my own business, but I had no business skills. So I had a look and I was like, well, where can I learn business skills? And when I left nursing, I went into the fitness industry, and I went into managing supplement stores, and I had to learn how to sell products, how to upsell someone from like a pre-workout to like spending three, four, $500. So,
Hmm.
and then I had to teach my employees. So I started doing that, and then I ended up being offered a bigger sales management role in Australia, working in supplement distribution. And then I had 150 accounts that I would need to sell anywhere from $1,000 upwards to sometimes $10,000 orders for their entire stores or warehouses. And I had to learn sales in that way, and just working with 150 men.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That was the most
Wow.
challenging thing ever. And then from there, and mind you, like I sucked at sales back then. Like this was like so foreign to me, but I had really good people skills. And that's what I was hired for. And then from there, UFC Gym Australia poached me at a fitness event, and they asked me to open up one of their brand new locations in Sydney, and they wanted me to be the fitness manager, and they wanted to train me up as someone that was outside of fitness management experience and bring me in, but that's purely based on my communication skills, my ability to network with people. And they trained me up in a sales management role. So I did all of pre-sales, ended up launching with 300 members, building fitness coaches, helping them build their businesses inside of the gym, and building that brand new gym in that particular area. And from there, it just became my thing. And when I launched my first business as a fitness coach, just naturally I transferred a lot of those skills that I had learned from amazing business owners and some of my own managers into my own business. And it just kind of like flowed from there. And I haven't always been good at sales. I think when you
Mm.
start off as a business owner, I don't think any of us are really good at sales. Something that we have to learn. We have to learn it. And I just committed myself to continuously like learning how to be better in sales, and it just became one of my biggest and best skill sets in my entire business.
Wow. That is so
Yeah.
incredible. I love that story. And like, I'm not at all surprised though at that that's like your biggest and best skill because you don't come across that way at all.
Mm,
And I think that's
mm,
something we share in common is like
mm-hmm.
I will often accidentally make a sale just by being myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I say, there's a lot to be desired, I feel like sometimes in my process. So Jessica and I know each other through our mastermind
Mm-hmm.
that we're in together, and we just like immediately gravitated towards her. And I think there's an energy thing. And so when when
Yes.
people talk about the concept, like because I'd love to like
Mm,
like I just met you, I just like knew, and there's a lot of people in there. There's like 100 plus people in our mastermind group.
mm-hmm.
And if I could just be friends with everyone all day, I would like not have a business. Um,
That's
which
so true.
you can also get kind of carried away when you're an extrovert and you're a people person. But I just love my peopling, but I felt very gravitated towards you. And I think it's a concept of like really
Mm,
your vibe does attract your tribe. And when you lock in with someone who's at a certain
mm-hmm.
energy level, you
Mm-hmm.
tend to just attract, you can't even help it. You're just like,
Mm-hmm.
you're just like an electron and you're just like there by this, I don't know, whatever it's called,
I
proton,
agree. I
whatever.
so
Let's not
agree.
get into chemistry. So like, I believe in the concept money is energy. And I'd love
Yes.
for just to hear your philosophy. Do you believe in that? And then,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you think is so powerful about using
Mm,
the feminine energy when it comes to
mm.
leading sales as opposed to the masculine energy?
Yes. Okay. So let me touch on the second question, because there's two parts in this. So the I think that us women, we sell different, we speak different, and I've never been when we launched this, and even just feminine sales, it was never to be like men are wrong and men don't know
Mm-hmm.
sales and the male industry is corrupt and all this stuff. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was never even from like a vindictive place. It was just from a place where I was like, us women, we really do communicate differently. There are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
words that men use that naturally is a part of their profile. It's they're supposed to be penetrative. They're supposed to communicate in a certain way, like
Mm-hmm.
that's their communication style. But for women, if there are certain words and there's certain statements that if us women say that, it comes across very, and I say the word penetrative because that's how it is. It comes across
I was
penetrative.
just like,
It's
let's
not
go
very,
there. I
we'll go
love it.
there.
I was like, we're just gonna go. Let's turn sales into sex. This
No,
is
but
the this is the this is the double
this is the
edition.
piece. No, but this is the piece. Okay, so side note for anyone listening.
Whatever, you're totally listening now. We're gonna get to
When,
the. I asked her about. I just want the. Hold on, Jessica. I just want the audience to know that I asked her about what's feminine energy compared to masculine energy in
oh, we're
sales,
going
and
there.
she took it to penetrative sex. So here we are. I didn't do anything. And so
Okay.
I'm going to lubricate the conversation forward in this vein now that I've learned this about you,
I
Jessica.
freaking love you. This is so funny. Every time I say this on an interview, I watch people's face and they're like, hang on a minute. Are we talking about sales or are we talking about sex? It's like, you don't even need to say it. I know what you're thinking. Okay, so now that's a good thing. And I can go on a tangent. So if I derail and we go on a tangent, just please interrupt me. So I actually I actually studied a lot about dating, and I studied a lot about feminine and masculine energy. I studied a lot about how women are supposed to communicate and how men communicate with women. And I learned a lot about certain words and how you say it and in which energy you're saying it from. And for those women that might be listening, sometimes if you might notice that when you say something, it comes across in a certain tone or in a certain way. And, in your body, you're like, I don't know, like it feels a little bit like constrictive, but your mind is like, well, I'm just going to say it, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just because I studied so much about dating and I had a dating coach and all these things, and I learned so much about energy and men and women, females' energy. Men do communicate in a penetrative way, and that is how they're supposed to communicate, especially with women. And once I learned all of this, I realized how much it tied into sales. So much of it tied into sales. And after studying from so many amazing leaders in the online sales space, I was like, every single script that I had ever read or got given, whether it was a DM script, a sales script, or whatever, from all the people I've learned from, I had to womanize everything. And I use this term womanize because I've had to change the way that the script flows, or that the way that a certain sentence, I've had to reword it in a way that comes across as permissive, submissive, and comes across in feminine energy, so that when a woman is communicating like that with another woman, or if a woman is selling to a man, if a woman is selling to a man, and I've sold to so many men, if she is not in her feminine energy and she is not submissive or permissive with that man on that call, it can go horribly wrong. And I've seen so many women be like, why can't I close these men? These men are trying to overpower me, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, well, how are you communicating with that man? Because a man is inspired by women that are a bit permissive or are a bit submissive. And sometimes it can come across in the tone or the certain words that you're using. So you're only going to get pushback from men in the energy that you're in. So if a woman is in her masculine energy and she's on a call with a masculine man, you've got two masculine energies in one room. It's not going to vibe. Same with women. If you have I work with a lot of business owners, right? So I'll put it in context. I work with a lot of business owners, sometimes women that are making more than me. And when I get on a sales call with them, they're in their alpha. They're already in their alpha naturally, and they're not coming to a sales call in feminine energy. Otherwise, they can't make a decision. They're coming to a sales call in their logical mind, assessing you, seeing if you're a good fit, seeing if this makes sense. They're thinking, they're processing everything on a sales call, and they're analyzing in order for them to make a payment and a decision for what they want and need in their life. Now, if a woman gets on a sales call and she is in her alpha, and the other lady is in her alpha, it's already not going to be in alignment, because you can't have two alpha to alphas head on head in one room. It needs to be, we have to have polarity in conversations, whether it's in dating, relationships, clients, coach to client, friendships. two alphas do not attract. They can in some way, but the conversation can sometimes derail in not the best way. So what I realized was is that I had to teach more women how to sell in feminine energy, how to be in their feminine, how to have really stabilized central nervous systems when they're having these conversations with people, how to understand their own frequency and their own energy, and how to use feminine communication with other people, and how to actually switch between two energies on a sales call or in the DMs. So
I love that.
does that make sense?
I love that. I have so many questions because I love that because I I have talked on this topic, not to the degree you have, but like from my experience with sales, and have taught about this and talked about this.
Mm,
And I'm actually interested because I'm like, there are some things that I'm like, yes, absolutely. And there's other things that
mm,
I'm like, I might want to challenge on that and like just see what you have to
mm,
say about that, and
mm,
see what your experience with that has been. So we'll get to that in a little bit, but
yeah,
it's just an opportunity to learn.
yes.
So one of the questions before we like move along too fast though is like, one of the things that's intriguing me
Mm,
is when you're saying there are certain words that men will
mm,
use that don't make
mm,
sense for women, or being the
mm,
submissive and permissive,
yeah,
and that you had to womanize the script, which I think are
yeah,
brilliant words, by the way, because they're very like triggering, like penetrate, and then, womanize. So I think it's brilliant branding, actually. So hats off to you on that. So can you give us a couple examples? Like what's a way a man
yes.
might say something on a sales calls, and what's a way a
Hmm.
woman might? So we can contextualize all the stuff you're sharing.
Okay, yes. So I okay, my brain's like filtering through my scripts. Um,
Hmm.
if I was to, okay, so women, and there's so many different statements, right? The sales process is still the sales process, so it's not changing the sales process, because sales is sales,
Hmm.
frameworks are
Right.
frameworks. You have to have a methodology and a framework for a sales process. But for example, how I sell to women is based on identity and desire. So women don't particularly like to be sold to where they're speaking so heavily on pain. Now, this might be very odd to a lot of
Mm.
people, because most sales methodologies teach to really get someone to understand the problem, the pain, and they do need to be problem aware. But I don't believe in like taking women to the depths of their emotions. And the reason being is because if you take a woman to the depths of her emotions, that's not probably going to be a good place for a woman, because they become very reactive, and they could become very triggered, because we are emotional human beings. We're not logical. Now, if when in
Mm.
the sales process for us, I had to create a whole identity selling framework where we speak to desire, vision, the heart centered, like, why do you want to do this? Because women care about their kids, they care about their home. We're philanthropists. Like, we are
Mhm.
women that want to contribute to the world peace. Like, that's us. And we will invest based on desire and the woman that we desire to become. Now,
Mm.
that was a really big piece for us. So I guess for me, if I was to think of statements and like questions, um, like I really, when we sell, we don't go really deep into, um, and how does that affect your life, and dig deep into pain, because it could trigger a woman. And I have noticed that when I've had maybe sales reps that have taken someone through that sales process, and they've gone really deep to the point that the woman starts crying and becomes emotional, she might invest.
Oh.
She may invest, but she's investing in an emotional state, which what happens is then you have buyer's remorse, and you have
Oh.
reactivity in the coaching container. So it's those energetic leaks that kind of thread between selling to a woman in pain and taking her to, how does that affect your life? Like, you can ask, how does that affect your life? And you can dig, how does that make you feel? And you can keep going lower and lower and lower and lower, and keep digging, because you're supposed to ask, a million different questions to make someone realize that their life isn't that great and that they need to invest. Let's be honest.
Sorry. Yeah,
But
that's a great way to sum that up. Yeah.
we're that's sales. Let's be honest. Like, that's a part of sales. But I think for women, you can't really, it's very risky doing that. It's super risky because then you're taking a woman to the depths of her emotions. And on a sales call, if you take a woman to the depths of their emotions, you're taking them out of their logical mind, and they need to make a logical decision, not an emotional decision. I also think if we were to think of statements, we say a lot of like, we use a lot of feelings, like how does that make you feel? Does this feel good for you? And we speak to feelings sometimes just to check in with their body, their physical body, and in terms of frequency and emotion. And then we also as well check in with like, and how does that think? How do you what do you think about that? So just changing little kinds of words here and there. And I'm sorry if I'm not giving you specifics. I'm trying to think of all of our scripts right now. But that would be
That's
probably
okay.
one of the biggest things.
I think you contextualized it, so I think that was
Yeah.
really good just to get. So I think that that made a lot of sense. Yeah, it's a.
Yes.
What I heard you say is instead of taking them to the depths of hell, and you're like,
Yes.
"This is your pain-based system,
Yes.
and you will
Yes.
rot here if you don't buy this thing, and your husband won't love you, and
Oh
then
my
your
gosh.
kids are mad." Like you're not doing that. Instead, you're
No, I'm
doing an
not. Yeah.
outcome. You're doing pleasure-based, outcome-based.
Yes. Pleasure
It
based.
almost
Exactly.
pleasure based, and it feels like that which is actually sounds a lot like us. We sell
Yeah.
branding, and so where our identity literally is like about vision. Our tagline is vision, identity, growth.
I love
So
that.
we will understand what the pain is enough to be like, yeah, so
Mm.
tell me where,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
there's a problem. Where do you self-diagnose the problem is?
Yeah.
And then depending
Mm-hmm.
on the conversation, but yeah, we're always selling the outcome, because in
Yes.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's like there
Mm-hmm.
is the status and
Mm.
there's the ego part that's right above
Mm-hmm.
love and belonging. So it's like I feel
Yeah.
like you're probably speaking more to the psychographics of women, which are in the land in the be do have framework. It's like
Yeah.
women are more of the beingness, and so if you can,
Mm-hmm.
if you think about, if they're more in the beingness, then they're going to
Mm-hmm.
kind of understand what you're trying to say, which is
Yeah.
the identity and the vision piece,
Yes. a
because they're
hundred
more
percent.
connected to intuition.
No, 100%. You're spot on. You're spot on. And I think the difference with men on that sense is you can really take a man to pain because men are supposed to be
Hmm.
leaders. They are providers. Men are leaders. They're providers. Men are supposed to become better men in the world, and they're supposed to have that like they can have that hard masculine shell. So you can kind of communicate a bit roughly, a man to man, alpha to alpha, a bit more in a rougher way than you could with women, because I've definitely tried that approach with some women, and the call has not gone the best way. Something that came to mind real quick before we move on was
Hmm.
for specifics, right? So if you go through the whole sales call, and I'll reference just the sales call, and then you go to like going through the pathway of like this is how we can help step by step. One thing that we do is for women is like after each kind of pillar, if I was like, okay, first we're going to do your business plan, and then we'll say, how does that make you feel? And then you want to get a feeling response, and you're like, that feels really good for me. That makes me feel excitement. I'm like, okay, amazing. Do you have any questions? So we're going from how does that feel? We're doing a body check in. How does that feel? Feels in
Mm.
alignment. And then tell me what your brain is thinking, because you can get two very different responses from this feels
Oh.
energetically and intuitively in alignment with me and it feels exciting, but do you have any questions? And then that's where objections come up. So the brain is like, oh, it feels exciting, but let me tell you what my brain is running through at a million miles an hour whilst you're talking. That's
Wow.
like a little trick for anyone listening.
Yeah, I like that. And that's specifically with women. Does it work the same with men?
I haven't tried it with men, no.
Okay.
And not not
Yeah,
not
that's
to that
interesting.
not to that not to that degree. I will, but I won't do it at every point because
Yeah, it's a
men
little
are a
bit
bit more
less.
decisive. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay, cool. I love this. All right, let's switch into like a little bit of a different vein
yeah.
here. So when we're talking about like the feminine energy, masculine energy,
Hmm.
obviously the genders are the gender you identify with is or
Yeah.
born with, whatever the way you feel like about that. We're not getting into
Hmm.
that on this show. Whatever the hell you feel like, you can pick. I'm in America
Penetration is
over here.
full.
We have penetrations for anybody who wants it to be, I guess. But
Uh, yeah.
it's not related to the gender, and it's
Yeah.
related to the energy within you. So
Yes. 100%.
what, in your analysis of, like, having sold to women who are obviously alpha type women and then selling to
Mm-hmm.
different types of women,
Mm-hmm.
like, what's the percentages, or how do you approach a woman who's in her masculine more on a
Mm-hmm.
regular basis, or is showing up like that, or
Yeah.
that's just kind of what her MO is, versus another
Yeah.
woman who is most
Mm-hmm.
of the time in her feminine energy? So I'm kind of curious on, like, especially
Yeah.
because you're focused on women, and then I'm going to ask the same question about men, because men can
Yes.
also be in
Yeah.
different
Yeah.
main energies. Yep.
I love this question. You ask such good questions. You're so
Thank
good
you.
at this.
I
You're
I
so good at this.
absolutely okay. Pause 1 second, and I'll turn it back to my wonderful guest here. I love interviewing people. Like, I think, like, I
Good.
call myself the Indian Oprah. My team calls me that. Like, I don't know what it I didn't prep for the interview. Like, I'm just like, hey, tell me your company's name because it says this here, but it's over here and we care about your brand. But, like, I love asking people questions. Like, it is so
So good.
intriguing to, like, talk to somebody like
Mm-hmm.
you who's got this such a varied background, this interesting depth of knowledge, like an
Mm.
inch wide, a mile deep, though, in these different areas. And I just
Mm-hmm.
like to, like, thread the needle through all these things. So thank you.
So good.
But
You're
it's
amazing.
a
Amazing.
reflection.
Love them.
It's actually a reflection of what your story is and what your skill set is. I'm
So
just the
good.
curious purveyor of what that is.
Oh my gosh. So good. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, this is good.
Back
And I
to the
do just want to,
question, feminine energy.
feminine energy. So I do want to be clear about this for anyone listening. Everyone has both energies inside of them. Very, very, very clear. Okay. You can't have one without the other. Everyone that is born into this world has both masculine and feminine energy out. Like, we all have it. Then we also have the dark side, the dark feminine, the dark masculine, and
Mm.
everyone has a dark feminine and a dark masculine, even men and women. We both have all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It just depends on what you're in the most at one given moment. And sometimes I can become the dark feminine in some ways, and sometimes I can become the dark masculine and I'm a wrecking ball and I'm controlling and I'm like a maniac, and then I can be the dark feminine where you're like really bitchy and like rude and nasty. Like, you can be that, right? And we all have it. No,
No,
we're not
why
angels.
would you and me know anything about that? That's not what? We're like, I
Come on.
mean, what? We're not on calls together. Like,
Oh my god. Who are we behind closed doors? We're angels. Oh my gosh. And I find this interesting, and how do we know and how do we communicate? So, um if I could give an example. Let me give an example. Okay? I'm going to use myself. I'm going to use I'll use myself as an example. So, I'm a seven-figure business owner, and I get on a sales call. I know who I am. I know what I want. It's not my first rodeo. I know exactly what you're. I know exactly. I know you're going to pre-frame me and you're going to say, I'm going to set up this call today. I know you're going to do that. I know you're going to ask me all these different questions. Oh, and I know when you get to objection handling, I know every single question you're going to ask me. I know it all. Like, I've invested.
I love you. I'm like, dude, I'm terrified. I'm like, oh my god. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Oh my god! But this is so true. But like, we know if you've invested a few times and you've spent some money and you've been burnt and all these things, like, you know, you get on a sales call and you got the money in the bank. You know you're going to invest. You're like, I'm going to
Yeah.
invest. But someone like myself, or even like you, Bijal, like, you've been in business for a while. You have a very strong personality. You know who you are. You know what you want.
What?
You know what you
No.
need.
I'm in my feminine energy.
But strong personality. But
No, I'm kidding.
strong personality does not mean that you're not feminine. You're that, and this is where it's like, it's so weird, because you
Mm.
actually are in your feminine. You're so in your feminine. And there are roles that you play where you're in your masculine, and that's fine. And when you're in business, you are putting on that boss CEO hat. Period. When you get on a sales
Period.
call, when you get on a sales call, you will get on that sales call knowing exactly what you want. You may not know what you need, but you think you
Yeah.
know what you need. And you're going to come on and you're like, this is my situation. Can you help me? And you're very assertive, and you can make a decision for yourself. So if we were to get on a sales call, Bijal, and I was to try and sell you, I'm not going to come at you like I know everything more than you. I'm going to hold space for you. I'm going to let you be you. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to dismiss you. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to like try to overpower you or pretend like I'm smarter than you or I know better than you. No, we are equal power. That's it. We're equal power.
But you're not going to do the submissive thing either.
No, 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 no submissive. And,
Oh.
and I know people are like, submissive. Do I have to like bow down to someone? No, that's not what it means. That's not what it
No.
means. But
What a terrible word, by the way. There's
I
like
know,
powerful, there's like dominating, and then there's submissive.
I know.
Who wants to be on the? I don't. I mean,
It
I
is what
definitely don't.
it is what it means. When I'm in partnership, absolutely, I want to be submissive. I do not want to make a
Uh-huh.
decision. I make enough decisions in my life. I want to show up.
Hmm.
I want to be treated like a queen and a princess, and I just want to be and not think. But
Hmm.
but if we were
I'm
to have a
reading between the lines,
conversation,
by the way. We'll get to that part a little bit later.
where is
I've
this
got just
going?
such a nice. I have a
Where is
really nice
this?
segue right after we finish this tidbit. So stick around.
Oh my
We're
god!
gonna get hot in her. I
I
knew there was
feel
some coming from the down under, and
it.
like I knew it was gonna be good. I just knew it. I was like, this is gonna be fun
Oh my
because
god!
anytime I talk to Jessica, we are in the depths of stuff. So you would
I
come in the
feel a
call
yeah.
and you would be in your feminine energy, but you would
Hmm.
make sure that we're on equal. You wouldn't take the authoritative role with me, but you
No,
wouldn't let
no,
yourself be in the submissive role. And
no.
that's because specifically a woman who's
Hmm.
showing up with her alpha, is it that she
Hmm.
won't respect a woman who's potentially taking the like inferior
No,
position?
I
No.
don't think it's about I don't think it's about respect, but I
Mm-hmm.
do think when people get on a sales call, they're looking for a leader. They're looking for
Mm.
someone. They're looking for a leader. And it's not necessarily, and it has to do with energy. And normally when you're on a sales call, you're in feminine energy, but you can also be in your dark feminine. And your dark feminine is your power. It's your personal power. It's who you are. It's your authenticity. It's your personality, your vibration. It's the magnetism that you are. So, and this is where like a lot of women don't. You have that, Bijal. You 100% have that, but not a lot of women have that. And if you were to get on a sales call with
Mm.
me, for example, you are looking for a leader. You're looking to see, are you going to hold me to the standards that I have for myself? Are you going to hold me to the vision that I have for myself? Are you going
Mm.
to help me to become a better person? Because people get on sales calls with people because they see a future version of themselves in that person. And they're looking for someone to lead them and to help them take them to that next level. So if I don't hold that power and I don't hold that space, and I don't hold that space for you, then yeah, I don't know if it has to do with respect. Like, I think
Mm.
you should just be a good person. Like, if you're disrespectful to people, then you shouldn't really deserve to be paid, probably, if you're rude to people on sales calls. But I think it's more so about you're assessing me to see if I can lead you. And that's really the most powerful thing because,
Mm.
I think that, yeah, I think hands down, that's the most powerful thing. So
I
if you were
like
to
that.
get on, I'm not coming at a hierarchy place. We're equal power and that's it. There's no hierarchy of like, I'm better than you. No, there is no I'm better than you. It's just who do you want to become? And am I the vehicle and am I the vessel? And am I the person that's going to help take you to that destination? And that's it.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love how you framed that up. That was a great segment. So,
Yeah.
okay, that was actually fascinating because that's going to edit some of my thinking because when I've
Mm.
studied the feminine and masculine energies,
Mm-hmm.
I've taken it to mean that like the dark feminine energy is the things that like we want to reduce that and we want to get into the healthy because like the dark
Mm.
is the unhealthy and you
Mhm.
don't want that.
Mhm.
But then when you brought it up, it's like everything you brought up is the dark energy is it is the combustion. And if there
Yeah.
isn't combustion in the
Yeah.
engine, you ain't going nowhere. And so like
Yeah.
you need the spark, you need the
Yes.
spiciness. You know, like in our
Yes.
group, everyone
Yeah.
calls everyone spicy. Everyone loves those moments. They're like, go off. Think about a 5-year-old girl, a 3-year-old girl.
Yeah.
Oh, she's sassy. Why is that such a
Yeah.
compliment? It's such
Yes.
a
It's
compliment.
so good.
It creates electricity almost. So it's
Mhm.
interesting to me
Mhm.
that those because you just can't. I think that when people try to paint people with a single stroke,
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
missing all these beautiful
Mm.
textures that
Mhm.
humanoids have. We have
Yeah.
texture to us, and so like
Yes.
having something that might be some feminine energy that's softer
Mhm.
and receptive and
Mhm.
intuitive and loving and nurturing, but then wham, like
Yeah.
the spark, and
Yeah.
then people get excited by that. So that's
They do.
cool
They
that you
do.
wove that in there.
Yeah, a lot of it has to do as well with boundaries and standards. Like if you can be completely feminine and have no boundaries. No, like it's not healthy.
Hmm.
And then you have like an entire business that has zero boundaries and then you just suffer.
Exactly. Oh,
Like,
we've all seen that. So
yeah.
before we move on to
Yeah.
the men's side, let's
Yes.
wrap
Oh
it up
yeah,
here
that's right.
with on the women's side of the energy. When
Yeah.
is it, if ever, in your
Hmm.
mind, appropriate for a woman to use her masculine energy in the sales
That's
frame?
so good. Objection handling. It's all logical. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. It's all logical. It's all
really?
logical. Well, yeah, because and this is where like this is why I don't believe, you just be feminine or just be masculine. No. And for a
Mm-hmm.
while, I thought that you had to be just feminine or just masculine. And that completely,
Mm-hmm.
I got so lost in this whole thing. You could go down so many different pathways. But objection handling is very logical. It's very tactical in a way, but you need to understand. So you have to ask very, very specific questions to understand what someone is thinking and feeling at that point. So you would change your energies to be a little bit more straightforward and also to create tension, because objection handling is tension. You have to create tension in objection handling, because at that moment you're really challenging someone and based on what they said they wanted versus are they going to actually fulfill on what they said that they wanted. So it can
Oh.
be very masculine communication but feminine energy.
Oh, wow. That seems like that seems very expensive. That seems like things that like Jessica
Expensive.
can train
You're
you.
so funny.
That seems very that seems next level. I don't know if you caught that, but like when you're talking when you have nuance on the nuance, you're like, "Damn, homie." So that's just a little shout out to like what
Oh,
she's professing here and
I
that's
love
when
that.
you're talking to an expert, by the way, is a nuance on a nuance. Like it's this and this, but not that in this situation. You're like, oh, okay, okay, okay. Never mind. Just hire Jessica. What I
You're
loved
the
about
best.
that moment there actually is that you stepped into your masculine energy in your communication right then as you were
Yeah.
talking about it. So that was
Hmm.
actually really fascinating.
It's so
Okay,
cool that
so
you
that's
noticed that. That's cool.
well, I am, let's go to woo woo land a little
Yeah,
bit.
let's go.
I'm like
Yeah.
an energy reader. I don't know how, I don't know where it happened, but I think part of the reason that I am so good at branding is I just
Hmm.
read the energy. I just
Yes.
feel it.
Yeah.
I can absolutely
It's
feel it.
huge.
And we're on a Zoom and I can still feel it. In person, you just can't even hide. So like I'll just check in on friends and they'll be like, "Did you just are you in my brain?" I'm like, I get that compliment kind of often,
So
but
good.
I guess it's just that intuitiveness when we do step into that feminine,
Hmm.
you can pick up on that collective energy that's around us. Okay, let's move over to the men because
Yeah.
there are going to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
men
Yeah.
who listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
for men,
Hmm.
not men who are doing sales, yes.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about I want to stay away from like the normal like a masculine men selling
Yeah.
to other men. There's like a bajillion
Yeah.
people talking about that. The part I
Hmm.
actually want to talk about is that if you are a woman and you are
Hmm.
selling to a man, I've dealt with
Hmm.
men who are 100% and sometimes they're on the polarity, sometimes they're in
Hmm.
the middle,
Hmm.
but sometimes they're the most masculine men or they are
Yeah.
the most feminine energy men and they lead in their
Yes.
feminine.
So good.
How would one, I know that's not what you do on the day to day, but how would you
Yeah.
recommend someone adapt to a man
Mm.
who's in his masculine or a man who's
Mm.
operating more in his feminine?
Yeah, this is so good. Oh my gosh, you're so amazing.
Stop it! Stop! Come back on the show and just tell me this. Come on now. Come on now. I already called myself the Indian Oprah on your episode. I'm like,
So good.
1 second, one
You
moment. Let me
honestly
just
are.
brand myself. I am the brand person, right?
Oh
So,
my God, you're so good. Okay, so all right, so okay, let's talk about a woman with like a very, very masculine man. Okay, so
mhm.
again, you have okay, this is gonna sound wild. No one judge me,
Mm.
but you have to flirt. I'm sorry, but you have to flirt.
Ah!
Like
What? To make a sale?
no, no, no.
Me as a married woman willing to put
Okay.
the chichi on the line? Very mindful, very demure.
Very, very demure. Very demure. No, we
Very
don't do that.
demure.
We don't do that. So,
My husband would be like, batter up. Let's go.
no, he'll
If
be
it's
no.
gonna make
You know
you a
what?
sale.
That's what I was gonna say. He'll be like, did you close, darling? Did you close? You better have closed that sale."
Oh, my husband, he is like game on. Show him that chichi and cha cha. What do we need to
Yeah.
do? You know?
I love you. That is the best. So you really do. You have to be. You don't want to go in there being like this leader. You like men are in their leadership. That's how they're designed to be. They're in their leadership. They are very They know what they want. They're very assertive, and they're very direct. So you don't go into that charging at them. Men, this, and if we think about this in dating, okay, and I refer this to dating, and this is how I've come up with this entire mind blowing like concept of everything. If a woman is dating a man, men don't want a competition. They're not looking for a competition in a woman. That's not what they're looking for. That's not what they will settle for. And that's not to say women can't be successful or anything, but I'm just they're not looking for competition, right? And women can be very powerful for men. Us women, how we play a role in men's lives is to help a man become a better version of themselves, help, and to be
Mhm,
able to
mhm.
hold that power for them. So if any guy that I've gotten on calls with, and sometimes honestly, sometimes men are just men, and sometimes it really does not work, and it's not in alignment, but it can't be in alignment with
Yeah.
everyone. You come on and you hold the space. You're supposed to be in
Yep.
your feminine energy. You give him time to talk. You don't cut him off. And I've seen women do this where they'll cut men off. That is going to annoy a man more than anything. You don't judge. You don't judge, because if you judge a man, you are being penetrative. A man is supposed to judge a woman and help her to become a better woman. A woman is not supposed to judge a man. And you can't like blame him for the things that he's done wrong and all these things. No, he's looking, if a man is going to invest into a woman as a leader, as a coach, he's looking for a woman that can hold that power, but it can also hold space for maybe his more of his softer side. So you have to be able to make him in some way feel safe on that call, that you aren't going to judge him or blame him or boss him around, that you're going to hold that space like a wife
Mm.
might do
Mhm.
for his partner. And I think I've audited a few women's sales calls with men, and they're like, I'm not closing. They're so mean to me and all these things. And then I look at how their energy is, and it's very competitive. You can tell she's nervous, and she just needs to relax. You just need to relax, chill out. It's all good. Let him talk. Just let him talk.
Totally.
That's it.
Men don't just sell themselves.
No, 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 no. And it is really just a woman. You, as a woman, you have to really be in your feminine. If you're on a call with a very masculine man, like he's on that call for a reason. I think if it's more of a feminine man, more of a feminine core man, um, they they are looking for more of, maybe a bit more of a masculine leader in a way, where they're really looking for someone to tell them what to do in some degree, and they might gravitate more to a woman, a female coach sometimes, because maybe there's a part of them that they're rejecting in themselves that could be their masculinity, and they need to do some form of deeper work on themselves. And this could go down
Oh.
a whole
Dang, I
tangent.
was like,
I don't want to
the way
derail
she
all this,
just casually dropped that. I'm
but
like, oh my God.
But
Wow.
it works on the other side as well. If you have a really
Yeah.
sometimes you can have like a super masculine man, but maybe it is maybe a bit of a wounded masculine that they need to learn how to tap into their feminine more. So they might hire a female coach because they want to learn how to express their feelings, and maybe they can't do that within a male container where they do, maybe they just got some work to do on themselves. So it's really just understanding the energy that people show up with, and it's the same with women. You have to really read the room in the first 2 minutes, and you have to be
Love
able to
it.
figure out what energy is this person in, and then you as the person leading and holding that conversation, you have to know how to navigate that. And this is like, I think this is the hardest part about growing a business and understanding people. So,
I love it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It was like that was really good. That was very insightful. And even thinking about some of those scenarios, that
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of
yeah.
sense. And I know I previously was going to tell you
Mm,
where I was going to challenge you previously is but I feel like you already answered it, so I feel like we're kind of actually on the same page actually,
hmm.
which doesn't surprise me either, but it is fun to have a little, we need a little bit of tension. Let's get some
Yeah, let's
tension
create some
here.
tension.
We're just like love bombing each other. Let's penetrate for a second and then I'll come back out.
Oh
I
my
had to do it. I
God.
had to
I
say it.
love
I
it.
had
I
to say
love
it.
it. I love
I
it.
don't get to say this on this podcast. I've never had an opportunity. You're my first person that I can be dirty with, and it's
Oh, be
still
dirty. Talk
related
to me
to
dirty.
branding. Okay. No, I'm kidding. I'm like, I always say, I'm like, we don't talk about sex on the show. And then this is exactly what happens. So,
Love it.
you know, because I do operate sometimes in my
Hmm.
masculine energy and I'm still kind of
Hmm.
figuring all of that out. It's
Hmm.
like I feel myself though going more into my feminine energy. But one of the things that I've taught about sales is that when I am on a
Mm,
sales call, I'm really not in my masculine energy. And I've just
mm,
naturally have always flipped it to be
mm,
like I lead with the feminine energy until it
mm.
comes to like, please review my brand and audit it. And I
Yeah.
think the part that you clicked in for me, it's always feminine energy until it's the like, let's look at the work because we're going to the logical decision
Hmm.
side. And you need to
Hmm.
make sure you're talking to a leader, not someone
Hmm.
who's going to be submissive and roll over and be like, well, if you like
Yeah.
pink unicorns, I think we could do that for your male
Yeah.
mastermind. I mean, I think that makes sense, you know. And so they want to hear that, like, do you have the ability to push back on them and come
Yes.
up with a better idea? So I think
So
what
good.
you kind of explained is that, or if it's a very, very masculine man, but he's in his wounded and he is looking for a female coach to help
Mm,
him find some of himself, and he wants more of that compassionate ear,
mm,
then it has actually worked well to show up in the masculine because they know you can go
mm,
and be neck to neck with them if they're quote unquote acting out or not being accountable, but then you're willing to get in the compassionate space. And so it made a lot of sense when you explain the nuance. Is
yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay, it's just that you're dancing, you're really learning to dance together.
It really is. It honestly is. That's all it is. It's like it, you think of energy as just like salsa, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's really it.
That's how it's always felt to me. So I love this.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Jessica,
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah.
beautiful having you on this show. Where can people find you? What's your best place that they can find
Yeah.
you? And we'll add it to the show notes.
Absolutely. Super easy. Just Jessica Viera on Instagram. JESSICA full stop VIERAA underscore. That's pretty much where I live.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Jessica, you are like, for those of you who don't know her, obviously you met this beautiful human being. Yes, I left out all the sex jokes. We actually just stayed on track, okay? But she did teach us that flirting. I think flirting with women goes really well too. So I just think you
It
should
does.
flirt.
It does. Yep. Just flat.
Just flirt, flirt with your shopping clerk person, flirt with your Starbucks, definitely
Yeah.
flirt in the airport lines through security. That goes over really
Yes.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Any
Mm-hmm.
kind of position where there might be a power
Yep.
differential, it might
Yep.
be really smart just to I call it charm, like just put on a little
Yeah.
bit of charm. It really lubricates
I
the
call it social
conversation for you.
flirting. Social flirting.
I like it. I like
Social
it.
flirting.
I call it like banter, and so that way it's just like removing, because
Yeah.
I'm a married woman, so I just I just remove that out of the equation. I call it banter because like I just
Yeah.
think it's really good to have that amongst people. But Jessica is a beautiful human. She
Mhm.
and I connected, and the first thing we started talking about was charitable things and like what could we do
Mhm.
to create a space and a place where women felt more worthy and deserving. And it just, she's just a beautiful person. So you
Thank
should
you.
absolutely follow her. She is even behind the scenes, doesn't matter what kind of day she's having. She's the kind of woman who shows up and like straightens your crown. So like, for all the women out there who are looking to follow strong, powerful women, this is one of them. And thank you so much for being on the show, Jessica. I appreciate you so
Thanks,
much.
darling. I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Love you.